Okay, so where tonight is.
Is it able to turn on the screen?
Oh, you don't see.
No, I don't see.
Okay. Okay. So we are, Be'ez Hashem, we're now in Rosh Chodesh Adar Aleph. Today's the first of Adar. There's Adar Aleph. So there's two months of the year. There's two others this year, which is called a Shnat Hebrew year. And there's already an argument, a question already in the Gemara. So Meir and Yehuda, when is the main Adar with regards to shtars, with regards to documents? When is considered Adar Aleph, or when is considered Adar Beis? Do you write Adar plain as Adar Aleph and Adar Beis as Adar Beis, second Adar? Or Adar Aleph is the added one? There's also an argument with regards to when we have Purim. The Gemara says in Megillah's argument, Navav, if we do a Mavir Mala Mitzvah, so therefore we do Purim in the first Adar, or do we do it in the second Adar, like we do it at Mitzvah Gula Legula? So there's an idea that there's a little uncertainty sometimes with regards to Yartzeit. For example, there's an argument between the Mechaber and the Ramah, Ashkenazim and Sfardim, when they finish, if someone passes away in the month of Adar, when they finish, or they passed away in Nisan, when is 11 months up, the first Adar, second Adar, with regards to the Bar Mitzvah. So there's a big conversation about which of the others. It's interesting that during this Hebrew year, which is a leap year, there's also a custom that's brought down. Many people say this during the Musaf Rosh Chodesh. They add, in Musaf Rosh Chodesh, they add a part which is that they ask for the Kaparas Pesha, that they ask for the forgiveness of any types of sin, which is something that's added specifically in the years of Ibur. And in general, an Ibur year, a leap year, where there's an extra month, was always considered, especially during the leap time of the year, was always considered by tzaddikim as there was some type of, in Yiddish, let's say, we'll call it angezeugen, like some type of sense that something may be missing, something is misarray, something's not correct, and there has to be some type of tikkun. It has to be corrected. This was generally during leap year, especially when others came around. And the reason for that is, very shortly, the reason for that is because generally the cycles of the moon, specifically the cycles of the moon today. So the reason why there's a leap year is to connect, is to ensure that the seasons are consistent with the Yom Tovim. That means that we're trying to connect and make sure that they're running in the same pattern, the lunar year and the solar calendar. The solar calendar, which is connected to the seasons, the lunar calendar is connected with the Yom Tovim, with the holidays. So to ensure that, let's say, Pesach always happens, the Chodesh Aviv always happening during the springtime, there's every few years, every 2-3 years, there is an added month, and then it realigns itself, the calendar realigns itself between the solar and the lunar calendar. So the seasons will always be correct. So always, Tishrei will always be during the fall, and Chanukah will always be in the beginning of the winter, things like that. The origin of this concept that the moon, generally the cycle of the moon today, the way we have it today, certainly that the idea of the cycle of the moon is an inconsistent cycle, which is that Shemesh Yadam Levoy, the Shemesh has a very consistent pattern, and Levana does not have a pattern, which means that it waxes and it wanes, goes back to the original Kitur Galavana, the story of the diminishing of the moonlight, which is that very quickly there's a story about the moon, however you understand the story, is that the moon was originally similar to the sunlight. There was Shnei Ma'aris Agdalim, two great lights, the great light of the sun, the great light of the moon. And then there was the diminishing of the moonlight for the time of exile. And then eventually we say that the moonlight will eventually the moonlight will return back to its original position to be the same light as the sun. This is the idea of a diminishing of light, which is the idea of a kitruk. So it's a tzimtzum, contraction of the original light. this contraction of this original light of the moon cycle is in the world of time. Similar, there is a contraction, there's a tzimtzum within the world of olam, which is the actual contraction of the creation, that there's an infinite light. The infinite light contracts itself to allow for finite light to emerge. So there's a tzimtzum. And this also reflects itself also in the world of nefesh, in the level of consciousness. So in time and in space, so you have in space, you have the idea of the tzimtzum of creation. In time, you have the idea of the tzimtzum, the contraction, constriction of the moonlight. And then you have the story of the Chet Eitzadas, the story of eating from the tree of knowledge, which is the tzimtzum within the consciousness of man, because the way Chazal understand this, the way our sages understand this, is that before the Chet Eitzadas, man, Adam is himself, like say, man was from one end of the universe to the other, which means that man was all-encompassing in a state of unity. And the soul of Adam Kadma, the original soul of Adam Kadma, was complete as one soul. And then after the Chet Eitzadas, which is eating from the tree of knowledge of the world of separation, there was a breaking apart of the souls into different sparks, into different etzitzes, which is the breaking, the diminishing of that original light. And the same also on the level of the body, there was a diminishing of the body, which was contracting in our form. So there's a tzimtzum, there's something about this absence, that something was originally in a certain position and then it became absent, it became constricted, which is connected to the Kitur Kalavana, which is in the world of time, and the tzimtzum of creation, the contraction of creation is the world of space, which is connected to time as well, and then in the world of nefesh, which is the soul. So because a Iber year, a leap year, is clearly trying to align and reconcile these two patterns of the sun and the lunar and the solar, therefore there was some understanding that there's something maybe amiss in this type of year. There's some type of energetic flow that's not working correctly. Specifically, in others, we have to understand what this means a little bit more. Some time ago, in 1984, the previous Ger Rebbe, the Pnei Menachem, came to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe, on Yechidus, and they were talking about this idea of a leap year. It was a leap year. It was actually on Yud Gimel Adar Aleph, 13th day of Yud Aleph. And they were talking about the leap year, and the Rebbe asked Pnei Menachem, what happens during Adar, when there's two Adars? What happens with the mazel, and what happens with the shevet? Like, what shevet is it, and what mazel is it? So the shevet, in other words, a tribe, there are 12 tribes, and the 12 tribes are divided in a way that we have, each month is divided into one of the tribes. Generally, shevet, Yosef is divided into two, Levi is not counted, so you have 12. Each of the tribes, each of the months have another tribe. And there's different ways how it's divided exactly, whether it's divided according to the Ravid, according to the Arizal, but the different systems, how they're divided. But comes an extra month, what do we actually do? So the Tzemach Tzedek writes, in our Torah, the Tzemach Tzedek writes that the Shevet that's connected to the other, now this can be the extra other. Now again, which one's extra is, that's the question itself. If the other Aleph is the extra one, or the other Beis is the extra one. But either one that's the extra one is connected to the Shevet of Levi. Now the question becomes, what is with the mazel? Does it have a mazel? The Pnei Menachem wanted to say that just like you have in the Kavanah Sari, that you have to machaven the different sirufim, the different combinations of the letters of Hashem, that there's some Achronim that say that you should machaven, you should have intention by Musaf of the Shabbos of Varchim, you should have intention for all the 12 combinations. So therefore, it's like some type of combination of all of them. And so he says the same thing also, that maybe that when we say that the mazel, it's the mazel of all the shvatim, of all the mazalas, all the zodiac influences, all the mazalas have influence during this extra month. Or some say maybe that there is no mazel, a mazel, and the Rebbe says maybe that's a big tzarach in how we understand this. So there's a certain understanding that something is something's missing, so to speak. There's something, and we have to understand what that means. That could be something that's seen as something that's negative, or it could be something that's positive. Because when you have actually 2 months of Adar, and we say that Mishenichas Adar Marbe Misimcha, that when Adar enters, we add in joy. Now, specifically, this has to do with Purim, but we say that Mishenichas Adar, that Ein Bein Adar Rishon Lad Misheni, only certain things, the Mishnah says, and like, for example, Mishlach Manas is not mentioned, the difference between the first Adar and the second. For the Ksav you have to say, you have to Gishalach Manas in the first Adar, on Purim cotton. And the Ramah says that you have to add in joy, Tevla Mishnah Talmud. Certainly the idea of Mishenichas Adar, Marb Misimcha, when Adar enters, this refers to the beginning of the Adar, and then when you'll have 60 days, which is 60 days, is the idea of Bittul, right? This idea of Bittul, which means that something becomes nullified in 60. And this is something that the Lubavitcher spoke very strongly about. When you have 60 days in Adar, when you have 2 others, you have the idea of Bittul. But Bittul, nullification, means that there's potentially something, just like when there's 2 foods that are mixed together. So you have something that's negative, something that's non-kosher, and that thing becomes, let's say, if it's like min b'she'en amino, let's say one and it's okfela, let's say min b'she'en amino, one thing and not the other, and different tastes. So we say that within 60 it's completely nullified. Tamar mamash, it's completely nullified, right? So what happens when it becomes completely nullified? It means that there was something theoretically that was not kosher, that was mixed into this other dish, and then this entire dish becomes kosher, which means that you can take this dish that had a non-kosher in it, theoretically, that was mixed in and it became everything kosher, and you can divide it into 100 different slices, and every person can make a bracha and eat it, which means that you can sanctify, because it's not only that this thing, that the non-kosher food becomes mixed in and you can't know what it is, but it's actually transformed. That's what the idea of bittul is. Bittul means that what was first non-kosher, by becoming nullified within the kosher, it actually becomes kosher. It becomes like the thing that it's nullified in, which means something that's negative is completely transformed. And this is through the idea of simcha, through the idea of joy. That joy has the possibility to transform anything that's even slightly negative into something that's positive. So let's say like this, in another way of saying like this, that normally when we follow the calendar, and every month is a new revelation of a particular divine quality that's being revealed in the tziruf, in the specific tziruf, in the specific formation of the name of Hashem, and a letter that's connected to the month, and a sheva that's connected to the month, and a mazel that's connected to the month. So that in itself gives rise to that quality within us and awakens within us that potential. That's when there's the month itself brings out that. But then there's another possibility when you have an extra month. So whether it does or it doesn't, or it has nothing or it has everything, the point is that the quality of the month in itself is not drawing out those same things that we have normally, because it's the extra month that normally you have this quality, that this idea of this month is connected to these specific qualities. So therefore the month itself is, so during the month of Shvat, this is the quality that gives rise. This is the context that gives rise to this type of quality, the sensation that gives rise. But when you have an extra month of Adar, so what is the sensation that's coming up? Almost, it's like a canvas. It's almost like an empty canvas that we have of course we have the potentials that are given to us, but it's through our avodah, through our work. And that's really that's what's really transformational about this, the extra month of the year. The extra month of the year means that we add a month. That there's an added month, which means that Klal Yisrael adds this one. That's the koyach of Klal Yisrael participating on the unfolding and the revealing of the calendar, which means our participation, and means that we draw out what is going to be revealed during this month. So when we say, like for example, the Rabbeinu Ephraim brings down, the Cheskuni brings it down, the Shmois Yitzayin, that there's no mazel during this month. The Arizvash brings it down, the Lashlofi, the Chido brings it down. There's no mazel during the extra month of the year. It can mean 2 things. This can mean a mazel means there's no mazel, or it can mean it's beyond mazel. So no mazel means there's nothing going on and there's nothing happening on its own. But on the deeper level, it means that we are connected to the ayin, to the infinite source, and the ayin is the mazel Yisrael. And that's why, interestingly enough, when it says that there's a mazel, Rabbeinu Ephraim and the Chizkuni write about that this is on other bays, and the Lavush writes that this is other Aleph. This is the first other. So which other is it actually? And that's obviously the question of which is the main other. But the point is, whatever other is the extra one, that's the one that doesn't have a mazel. And doesn't have a mazel means not that it's only lacking, but it's because there is no quality on its own. It's just like a residue of that quality of other, like the background noise of the Chodesh Adar gives rise to the quality that we can create, and we can connect to joy. If we can connect to the joy, to Mishanichas Adar Marbim Simcha, and we should do it in the Tishal Simcha, if we can add and bring in the joy during this month, then we create it. And therefore it has a koyach of Knesset Yisrael, has a koyach of Israel, which is a Mazel Yisrael, which is the ayin is the Mazel Yisrael. So the mazel is actually, we don't have mazel, but in a way, because there is no strong mazel, even though bari mazel is in the month of Adar. So again, the question is which other? But in the month that it's not the original Adar, which is the extra month, which is a mazel, is actually ayin is the mazel. Because there is a mazel, because there is no mazel, which means there's no mazel on a external level. So therefore, the mazel comes from within us, and what is within us? We're connected to the Ein Sofius. Because we're connected to the Ein Sofius, therefore, ayin is the mazel Yisrael. We're connected to the koyach of Ein Sofius, and that's specifically connected in general to the month of Adar, because the Sefer Yetzirah says that Adar is connected to the quality of schoik, of laughter, of joy, and schoik, laughter. The Gra writes this at Sefer Yetzirah, and also Tachas Forum, the Yavitz writes this also, that laughter, between all the chushim, all the senses that the Sefer Yetzirah talks about, that is connected each of the month, laughter is one of the only two qualities that is specifically to the human being, which means that, touch and smell and taste, other animals and other creatures also have those same senses. But the sense of laughter or of irony, of things to find humorous, that's a unique quality in the human being. And that's what it means, because other is our participation, especially in the other that's not the original other. That's the human participation. That's why schoik, when we're talking about the Knesset of Klal Yisrael, we're saying that a Mazel Yisrael, which is the ayin is the Mazel Yisrael, the infinite is the Mazel Yisrael, is connected to schoik. Schoik is 414. Like Tzemach Tzedek also writes in the Torah, it's 414 is the same numeric value as Or Ein Sof, as the infinite light, which means schoik opens us up into infinity. So the joy is allowing us to connect to something that's infinite. Because atzvus, what is atzvus? Atzvus means depression, or like we'll call the opposite of joy. The opposite of joy means is not who we truly are. Atzvus is connected to the word of etzev, like tseva, to like a paint, a coating. Means that the essence of our soul, of who we are, and connected to the Or Ein Sof, to the infinite light, is joy. We're joy in our essence. And the reason why we don't experience joy is because there's coats of external coatings that we assume, like our cynicism and depression, or whatever the coat that we're wearing. It's a hindrance to revealing what the essence of our soul is. So the avoida, the work of Chodesh Adar, the month of Adar, is to peel away the external, to get to the place of the place of the inner joy, which is always joyous. Why we're joyous? Because we're in a joy, we're in a state of unity with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a state of connection with the Ein Sof. When a person is in a perfect state of connection to the Ein Sof, to the Creator, then a person is in a perfect state of joy. Let's say you see, for example, a child. The natural state of a child is to be joyous. Wakes up in the morning, is joyful. The natural state of a tree is to be joyful. Of course, I'm not saying joy as a tree, but the concept is that it's being itself. The more we are itself, the more we are joyful. The more we're connected to our deepest self, which is the schoik, which is the infinite, the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light that exists within us, the more joy we experience. And the more the more a person veers off from their original position of who they are, that's when they start feeling depression. The Kotzker once said that some people say that the people sin because they transgress because of precasal, because they throw off the yoke of heaven. And he said, no, it's not because of that. It's because of depression. It's because of atzvos. Because they're trying to feel something. They're not feeling who they truly are. And because they're not truly feeling who they truly are, they're looking for all types of sensations to allow themselves to feel. They feel like if I do this thing, I'm able to feel alive. If I do that thing, I'm able to feel alive. And everything is just a supplement, and they never feel truly alive. And the only way to really truly feel alive is to be connected to the Makar HaChaim, to the source of life. And when we're connected to the source of life, we're truly alive. When we're truly alive, we truly feel joy. So all the other things that people chase and running after, and all the other nonsense, and all the externals of this world that a person is chasing to find joy, is because the person is really not stopping to feel. Because they're stopping to feel, they feel like, okay, let me just try this thing. Maybe I can jumpstart my system to feel a little bit something. But this is all the chitzai, this is all the external. And the schoik is to get to the place of the Ein Sofi, is the infinite, the part of ourselves that's always connected to the Makar Chaim, to the source of life, to bring out this joy. And that's why Adar in general, Adar Aleph or Adar Beis, in general is connected to, besides it's connected to the quality, to the chush that's connected to schoik, is also connected to the letter kuf. And kuf goes back to the letter which is connected to kain, in contrast to the letter hey. Kuf and hey are very similar. Hey is connected to hevel, and kuf is connected to kain. And the difference between hevel and kain is that hevel represents someone that's floaty, someone that's like breath. Therefore, hevel, that Rizal says, is connected to water. So a person that enjoys water, being next to water, someone that's connected to hevel. Kain is someone that's the shoyish kain, someone that's the soul of kain, is someone that's connected to a very strong set of rootedness, to kinyan, someone that acquires something. That's why kain is a shepherd, and hevel is nomadic. Hevel is hevel is a shepherd and is nomadic, and kain is a farmer. He plants things. He makes a kinyan in the earth. He makes he's grounded, and that's the difference between the letter kuf and hey. Is that the letter kuf, the left leg of the letter kuf, goes all the way down, which means that it penetrates the earth. It's grounded, versus the letter hey that has no footing in the ground. Now kuf also is connected, like the Gemara says, it's connected also to and the Medrash says that kuf is connected to the word of kedusha, which is holy, but also kuf is also ma'aseh kof ba'alma. When Chazal want to talk about, when the sages in the Talmud want to talk about something, that a person does something, and it's like sort of not a real thing, that's like a trick or not something that's rooted, that's just imitation. They'll say it's a ma'aseh kof. Kof is like in Hebrew is a monkey, so just someone that's copying. It's humorous, and the kuf represents this type of humor, is this type of schoik. And if you take the word schoik, you actually have the word chush kuf, like the chush, the sense of the kuf, which is, what is the sense of the kuf? It's a type of humor that's grounded. There's a type of humor which is very floaty, which is hevel, which is hakel hevel. Everything is empty. There's a type of humor where someone just disregards everything and laughs at everything. And when a person disregards everything and laughs at everything, and there's nothing sacred, eventually the end result of that is that a person becomes depressed. Why does a person become depressed? Because there's nothing grounded, there's nothing sacred, there's nothing holding that. But the humor that comes from the letter kuf is, or the joy and the simcha and the schoik and the laughter that comes from the letter kuf, is a very much grounded humor, a grounded joy. It's a joy of knowing exactly that I'm rooted, that I'm connected, that I have my roots very deep, and I know exactly who I am, and I take myself lightly. And that's where the humor comes in. I take life very seriously, but I take myself very lightly. That's the quality of the kuf. And this goes back to what we're saying, that the whole idea of this month, especially the fact that there are 2 months of Adar, that there is Adar Aleph and Adar Beis, and which one is exactly the real Adar, and which one is the added Adar. Again, that's up for a big conversation. But the idea of the extra month of the year is, when we say that there's things that are going on around the world, that are there's normal times when we say that there's something that is occurring and that's giving rise to that experience. That's what happens during every month of the year. And then there's sometimes in the year, which is a leap year, where there's the extra month, which is that we created this month. And we, as very grounded people, rooted and recognizing that we're rooted in Kedusha and sacredness, and we're connected to the Makar Chaim, to the source of life. In the place that we feel rooted, we don't get stuck in the superficiality, in the images. We're able to play with those images. We're able to say, okay, that maybe this is true, but maybe if I peel it a little deeper, I can get into something more true. So maybe I look at my life and I say, I'm the person that I am. Okay, and then I say, yes, that's just a Maisa Koif. That's like just mimicking. That's just like monkey behavior. Because if I really peel away a deeper level of myself and I bring out something that's even deeper than me, and if I can laugh at the superficial part of myself and go even a little deeper, I can find something who's more sacred and more holy. I get to the real source of my Ein Sofius, my infinite potential that is rooted and connected with Makar Chaim, with the source of life. So never to get stuck in the superficialities of the imagery that we create for ourselves. That to say that I did something up until today, and that's the form that I have created for myself, that's good for today. But if I really want to live, I have to challenge myself. I have to go a little bit deeper and say, okay, that was good for me for it to be yesterday. But today Hashem gave me a new day. What's going to be my new day? How can I create something even more that's so radically more expansive and more wholesome and greater than the person that I was yesterday? To constantly move forward and push ourselves, and sometimes it's specifically through humor, through laughter, not to get stuck. Sometimes when a person is very, let's say, even if you're having issues with a child or someone, and sometimes you tell the person a joke, and all of a sudden it loosens something that allows for another possibility to emerge. So sometimes you loosen it, like Avram and Sarah, and that they were in old age, and even though Avram laughs, it's maybe an internal laugh, and Sarah laughs, and she says, maybe it's a more external laugh, it's a more cynical laugh. But Yitzchak, the possibility of giving birth to a child like Yitzchak at the old age only occurs through laughter, because they were able to laugh. They broke the certain mold of who they thought they were. That I'm an old person, she's an old person, my husband's an old person. We cannot have any children, and we can't give birth to something new. And that allowed for the birth of something new. The mere fact that they were able to laugh in wonderment, if they're laughing in wonderment, and it's a cynical laughter, but if they're laughing in wonderment, then open themselves. Hashem says, you're gonna have a new child. Really? It's unbelievable. And that laughter opened themselves up to the possibility of something much more wonderful. And that's really the creation of Rav. There's an idea of like the laughter and then the procreating. In order to create something, it has to be first that initial laughter, that breaking of the old mold for the possibility of something new to come. And that has to be also within ourselves as well, to constantly think about ourselves and say, okay, this is the certain paradigm, this is the certain self that I've created, this is the person that I am. But if I go really deep, I can actually laugh at the person that I was yesterday in comparison to the person that I can become tomorrow. And to open ourselves up to the infinite possibility of growth, an infinite possibility of constantly growing closer and closer, and therefore experiencing deeper and deeper forms of joy. And this is what's happening during this month, in this extra month. So instead of looking at it as a month of, l'chaper pesha, and the idea, kaponis pesha, and the idea of that it's ein mazel yisrael, there is no mazel, and it's like a month that if the kitur galavona connected to something that's negative, we can go a little bit deeper and see the ayin that is a mazel yisrael, and it's beyond the pesha, and it's beyond the sin, and beyond the transgression. Because if we can laugh and we can go a little bit deeper, we can get to the schoik, we can get to something that's deeper within ourselves, and therefore we can bring a lot of joy and a lot of laughter and a lot of blessings into our lives for this coming beautiful month that we're about to enter.
Beautiful. So we have our first question.
Yeah.
And we'll take maybe somewhere between 3 and 4 questions.
Okay, perfect.
First question is, essentially, let's say we're not necessarily we feel pretty painted. How do we crack open? How do we get to that place to jumpstart the inner essence of simcha, inner essence of joy? What are some practical tips that could help us access at this very moment, even if we're not feeling that inner realm of joy?
I think it's a very important thing to say that if a person The mere fact that a person is aware that there's something needs to be cracked open. The mere fact that a person is bitter about their state and saying, I'm not feeling. That's like what the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, for example, that it brings down from the Zohar, that a piece of wood, in order for it to catch fire, you have to break the twig in half, to break it into smaller pieces. So sometimes the actual breaking it and recognizing, like, this is not good, this is not okay, I'm not really feeling myself deeply, I'm not really feeling my full potential that I could become, that in itself allows for the cracking open, the certain cracking open of the self for the greater self to emerge. So if a person needs to do that, you can do that in the cheshbon nefesh. Like a person can sit down before they go to sleep every night, and especially now during this month, and think about, like, why am I not feeling? What's wrong with me that I'm not feeling? And I want to feel. I feel a little bit the bitterness of that thing, the merirus. And that's like the bitterness, not the depression, but the bitterness that I want to feel and I could feel and I really want to feel more. That can actually be transformed into something that's rum, something that's elevated, and that's suffix, and that's the elevation of Amalek. So the mar becomes rum.
That's the end of the day. What about to jumpstart your day? And to start on the right foot? To
start on the right foot is a very simple thing. You have to wake up and say Madani, because no one wakes up in a bad mood. There's no such thing. Maybe you wake up, you slept on your left arm, so your arm hurts, but no one wakes up in a bad mood. Everyone wakes up. The neshama wakes up. The first thought, this is what the Baal Shem Tov speaks about very strongly, that we have to make sure that the first thought that we have of the day, the very first thought that we have in the day, is a positive thought. The first thought that you have in the day, and you say, oy vey, I have to meet this person, I have to do this thing, I have the other thing, okay, that's going to be your day. It's going to be oy vey. You open your eyes and you say, thank you, Hashem, for this wonderful day, for giving me back my soul. You're going to be in a state of gratitude. And when a person is in a state of gratitude, they're in a place of completion. They always feel whole. And if you're in a place of wholeness, their life will feel whole the entire day.
Just another question that's coming up is, I've heard about Purim Katan, but on a spiritual realm, what is this idea of, like, what do you do, first of all? Are there any rituals or any things to do? But how do you tap into that Purim energy at the heart of the month? In this month that's not officially Purim. Like, that's
mamish devar. That's mamish what I want to say. That's exactly what I'm not saying this as an abstract, sitting on an ivory tower explaining it to you. I'm saying it way people are margishes, the way people are actually feel this. Comes Adar Aleph, you don't feel it. It doesn't feel like Adar. That's the point. It doesn't fucking feel like Adar. If it would be 14 days away from Purim today, you would feel it. The quality of Adar sets in much stronger. That everything that comes that's being revealed in this world during Adar in the regular course of the year, that when the Adar comes, you actually feel Adar strongly. You feel that the Simcha is coming forth and Purim is coming up, and Adar you feel it. And then Adar Aleph comes, and you don't feel it because of this reason. Because it's actually, there's the ain is the mazel. There's no mazel. It's like there's a certain absence. There is no shevet. And there is no mazel. And there is no tziruf on one hand. But because the 13th, the extra month, is our avodah, which means that we add in an extra month. Because the chodesh is Alechem. The chodesh is Alechem. It's to us. We have to sanctify the new moon. Even Atma Filu Shoigim, Atma Filu Mazidim, that we sanctify the new moon. Because it's our avodah. So the avodah, the work, the spiritual work that we have to do in Adar is us. It's all about us. That we have to put ourselves into that state. So there's something even deeper, something more challenging and harder, because it's not given to us. Normally we can rely on external stimuli, spiritual stimulus. Therefore, we can feel Rosh Hashanah, you can feel Yom Kippur, you can feel Sukkot. And here we have a month that there's nothing happening to us. There's nothing. It's an empty month. But here's where we can, if we really go deeper, we can reveal the ayin that's the mazli soul. We can reveal that infinite potential that we have within ourselves. It's even higher than any mazel, higher than any quality that can be revealed.
So just to clarify, you're saying that bittul is the avodah, it's the acceptance, that's the work?
No, bittul is bittul. No. Bittul, through joy, we're mevatel anything that's negative. When a person works on the joy to reveal the joy, I'm saying joy is your essence. You are joy. You're joy be'etzem. If you take away all your worries and doubts and uncertainties and cynicism, which is all savua, is all paintings that you painted because you think of that, because you think of that. Stop with all your thoughts. Just be like the child that wakes up in the morning with no doubt, with an open eye, with wonder. If you can tap into that one moment of the day to wake up in that state, to tap into who you truly are and the level of your neshama that's connected to ayin, you can mevatel all the negativities that are possible to arise during this moment. That the simcha is the mevatel of everything that's negative. So instead of being ain, it becomes ayin. Instead of being not, it becomes infinite.
Okay, and
you understand?
I think I understand that. Yeah. The one more question.
Yeah.
I think we'll leave it with this. Actually, you know what? Instead of that question, someone just posed one more question.
Yeah.
I think that's a good closing question. I'll ask my email.
All right.
What is joy? We just need a real definition of what joy is. Like
joy, simcha, sameach is connected to the word sameach, connected to the word growth. When we are doing what we're supposed to be doing and meant to be doing on a physical level, emotional level, a mental level, a spiritual level, existential level, on all our levels of being, we're being fully ourselves at that moment. And we're knocking, we're activated on all states of ourselves. That's joy. Joy doesn't mean that you're going around dancing in the street. It's the posture that you feel so whole that there's nothing that's pushing you down. I think and that comes when a person is really connected to the essence of who they are. The essence, the joy. Let's just say it differently. The joy is actually who we are. We're joy b'etzem. What does it mean? We're joy b'etzem. Dr. Ed writes in the Katzah.
It's not really done.
A tree is in joy state. Everything that's in nature is in its joyful state. It's doing exactly what it has to be doing. The only one that has a convoluted story is the human being, because they start creating all different types of narratives, and therefore this is not working out, that's not working out. Who said anything? If you just be in that state of your being, you're going to be joy. Joy is always the place, your root is joy. The root of everything is joy. When a person is connected to the root, that's when the more a person becomes in touch with themselves on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on a mental level. The more a person is more consistent with who they truly are, the more joy they are. Then they're walking joy. The moment you think I should be doing this, really I should be doing that. And I feel this way and I really should feel that way. And my body's telling me to do one thing and I feel another thing. The moment there's an inconsistency and there's a dichotomies between all these levels of self, that's when a person gets bent out of shape. And that's when there's no joy. But the moment you wake up, in that first waking moment, before any other thoughts enter your mind, the moment you wake up and you say thank you, that's the perfect state of joy that you should be in. And that's what other is. Try to be in that state. When you connect to that state, you're ayin, you're infinite. You're connected to Koyach Ein Sofius, and Makar HaChaim, the source of life.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining. And if you're not yet in touch with coordinator, I could put you in touch. You can email